We're joined now by Behnam Ben Taleblu, Senior Fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracy, is joining us from Washington, D.C. Behnam, thanks for being with us as always.
Pleasure, thank you.
This major show that we're seeing from the IRGC, it's not necessarily new. We've been seeing them really trying to boast their military strength in the past several weeks, if not several months at this point. And so is this all in line with their strategy of showing that they are still a strong military force?
That's right. And as you know, hyperbole is no stranger to Iranian military news, in particular Iranian military unveilings. But there is certainly a political desire to signal resolve. And there's an attempt by this regime to try to bolster, at least in terms of military capability, the deterrence that Israel has been able to relatively successfully shatter against it in the past year. And that's why you've seen at least 2 air defense drills. That's why you've had at least 1 new medium-range ballistic missile unveiled. This carrier, actually, you can date talk of this kind of stuff in Iran back to 2021, when the regime talked about and indeed was working on repurposing tankers to actually be able to function as an extended arm for long-range strike capability. So these are things that have been in the pipeline for a while, but the regime now finds propitious political use to unveil them, given, again, their shattered deterrence.
And the timing of this also interesting, as U.S. President Donald Trump now back in the White House. And so it's not only that Israel has weakened some of their capabilities, but there's also the whole play about what exactly the United States might do to counter Iran. What type of a message could this be sending to Trump?
I think there's only a slight chance that this is actually a signal against Washington, whether a signal of resolve or defiance. Actually, if you look on the Iranian calendar between February 1 and February 11, it's something that they call the 10 days of dawn. It's between when Khomeini, the founding father of the Islamic Republic, returned to Iran and when the Islamic Revolution was declared victorious. And traditionally, they commemorate this period every year. They do unveil these sorts of things: new missiles, new parades, new capabilities. And if anything, if one is looking at the changing U.S. force posture in the region, the focus on the Levant rather than the Persian Gulf, for example, at least politically by someone like Donald Trump, I don't think the Islamic Republic militarily is worrying, given some of the latest social media messaging out by the current president.
Well, and this latest social media messaging from the President Trump, he's kind of shifting away from the idea of any type of a warfare with Iran, instead instituting, once again, this maximum pressure campaign. Is this opening up any sort of negotiations from Iran? What's the reaction that we're hearing from Iran following round 2 of this maximum pressure campaign?
Well, round 2 of this max pressure campaign just begun, not just because of the new presidential memorandum that was declared and signed, but because the Treasury Department has issued its first Iran enforcement actions under the Trump administration under this max pressure 2.0, going after a whole host of illicit shippers that generate money for Iran's military-industrial complex. But the regime, make no mistake, is trying to trap the president into talks, trying to take advantage of war weariness in America, trying to take advantage of tiredness with the Middle East and America, and is actually trying to ride on the goodwill that the president has to try to resolve this issue diplomatically. That goodwill existed even before the president even entered office in term 1, but many falsely projected what they wanted onto President Trump. Now, with the president back in term 2, I think he's looking to build leverage for a potentially good deal. But the problem is the Iranians are going to be looking to take advantage of the president coming to the table. And that's why all eyes will be on Tehran and Washington and the messaging they put out in the next few weeks.
What does that mean, taking advantage of the president, Behnam? What type of advantage can they take from the White House right now?
Well, the Iranian goal, if you had to ask me, with respect to diplomacy, is quite clear. If you look at what Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, said in 2019 about Trump when Shinzo Abe tried to moderate between Trump and Khamenei, he said Trump was not even worth responding to. In 2021, commemorating the 1-year anniversary of the killing of Qasem Soleimani by the U.S., the Iran supreme leader said that Soleimani's shoe was worth more than the president's head. So the Iranians have done a 180 when it comes to negotiating with Trump because they have a weak position at home, a weak position abroad. And so, one, the Iranians are trying to make sure there's no military attack against their nuclear program. They're defenseless now, thanks to Israeli strikes against their long-range air defenses. 2, the Iranians are trying to signal resolve to their own people, who are more disgruntled than ever before and have been protesting more than ever before. 3, the Iranians are going to try to use talks as a way to kind of prevent the Europeans from getting more involved in preventing this snapback mechanism from being triggered come October 2025 of this year. So the Iranians are trying to tie the president's hands and limp along, because if you're talking, you're not shooting.
Well, Behnam, you did just mention exactly the deterrence that Israel had, the fact that Iran's capabilities are weaker than they have ever been. And so the messaging that we're hearing in Israel from some sides is that now is the time to strike. But if Trump is not behind that, could this be a missed opportunity perhaps for Israel? Or is it better because Iran could fully start a full-out war if that does happen?
Well, I think now is the time for some real serious planning. I mean, political coordination, but also policy coordination. Now would be an excellent time, for example, for another massive military exercise. The one that, for example, the Biden administration had with the Israelis was quite good, Juniper Oak. The Trump administration should do one better and expand it and really highlight the capabilities that the U.S. and the Israelis have to really check the regime's nuclear program so that the big stick can be wielded and simply not have to be used. The goal here, or for lack of a better word, the art of the deal here, is to build on and highlight the fears that the regime has to force submission.
It could be an interesting time indeed. Behnam Ben Taleblu breaking down exactly the latest developments happening inside Iran. Thanks for joining us, as always.
Thank you.